Hi, everyone. This is Steve Stones. And in this video clip that you're watching here, I'm creating my interpretation of the 19th century painting by French painter Ingres entitled Le Grande Odalisque. And you can see here that I'm starting out with a collage process where I'm tearing up bits of newspaper advertising and I'm building up layers of torn up collage imagery. And here we have, I'm laying some green background with dots. The dots that you'll see in the green coming up are just to unify a number of paintings that I've done recently, so that every painting that includes the dots is included as part of the process or part of the fact that they're all a series of paintings. Here I'm laying in the blue curtain. At first, I wasn't very happy with the blue, but then as I kind of stood back and looked at it, I decided to keep most of it. But you'll see here in a little bit that I cover up some of it with collage bits. You look at color as it's being applied to a canvas as it's wet, and it appears to be a lot darker than it really is. So I have a great big large area of blue that's being put into this shape of the curtain. And then I decided, after the blue dried, I decided, well, maybe I don't want to use all that blue. So I started putting patchwork of collage elements into the background. And these are patterns that I rip out of bills that I get in the mail. If you go out to your mailbox and you get a bill, you can often see on the inside of the envelope that there's these interesting patterns that are on the inside of the envelope. So I rip those up and I start putting them into the background as collage elements in many of my works. Now I'm putting the fold lines of the curtains of the drapes over the top of the collage. I started painting in the dots of the green background there. It's at this point in the process, I didn't know what I was going to put in front of the nude woman that's reclining there. And at some point, I was considering a giant grasshopper, and then I kind of abandoned that idea. And then it was suggested that maybe I should have put a cat in there. So we're going to see a cat appear here pretty soon. I'm going over all the lines on the drapes, as you can see. So I'm not attempting to paint in a so-called realistic or naturalistic way. That's just not how I typically paint. So I'm filling in some more of the dots of the background. And you can see I haven't attempted to paint the figure just yet. I wanted to feel good about the environment that she's placed in before I put any effort into painting the figure. Okay, so there we have all of the dots filled in. Now the cat makes an appearance. Okay, here we have the figure being filled in. So after I fill in the figure with this color that's a flesh color, then I'm going to go back and put in the um, darker values on her skin. You can see I've put a halo around her head. It's a Celtic pattern. So this takes a little bit of time to fill in the entire figure. And then, it occurred to me as I was painting the figure that maybe I didn't need to paint all of the divisions of pattern that she's laying on, and that I could fill some of those up with more collage. So there's a combination of, as you'll see, there's a combination of painted areas with collage on the material that she's laying on. Okay, so now the figure's there, and we start to put some of the we put in some paint on some of the material that she's laying on. That bottom edge there, that's just some more pattern that I ripped up from bills that I get in the mail. So, it's a good way to recycle things that you get through the mail. Here we have the lighter green. Should I call that a grasshopper green? As I pointed out earlier, I was considering putting a giant grasshopper here, and because I didn't, I thought, well, I'll still use kind of a grasshopper green in some way in the painting. So carrying some of the green over to the other side of the painting, just so that there's a greater sense of unity, so that you're not isolating a color in just one area, and then you can see it throughout other shapes in the painting. There's the headdress of the figure. So that's some cut blue construction paper, actually cardstock paper, which is higher quality than construction paper. And some more patterns. The fan that she's holding, I'm actually going to cut that out of a shopping bag. So there it goes. So again, just some more recycled materials. These are everyday, materials that most people would just throw away and not really think much about whether or not they would have any other use. In my studio, I collect a lot of different patterns and textures, and I archive them. And then in the future, I just decide, okay, well, some of these patterns are interesting, so I could use them in future projects. So we're starting to put in some of the darker values on the flesh of the figure. Making those values kind of a hard edge, or a hard edge kind of technique. I've always been inspired by a number of pop artists, Roy Lichtenstein being one. And Lichtenstein would often paint shapes in a very hard edge, crisp kind of presentation. And even the dot idea is something that you see frequently in Roy Lichtenstein's paintings. So there's a zoom in of the foot there. It's at this point I started to feel much more confident about this painting, because I was concerned about what the figure might look like. And sometimes you just have to jump in and start painting something and not worry about whether or not it's going to turn out great. So we put the creases on the fan, which is a shopping bag. Then we start painting some of the outline, the contour lines of the figure. And the cat there kind of gives us some great company as we're painting, so to speak. Now, this is a wonderful composition that Aang came up with. I can see why, this is a beloved painting in the history of art. Just really well composed. You can really learn a lot by taking paintings of the past and trying to make your own interpretation of those paintings. You can learn a lot about composition, for one. So finishing up the small details here. Getting that bold black line outlining. The trick is not to dip your pinky finger into lines that you've already painted. That's always a issue for me. I'll paint a line and then accidentally dip my pinky finger into the paint as I'm going back over a line that's already been already been painted on the canvas. So she's coming along quite well. I've always loved the random look of just all of those bits of torn up collage that are pasted at random in the background area there. It's interesting to take those bits of advertising and just kind of randomly sticking them on the background. I have a little roller that I use. I think that was shown in the previous going back earlier in this video. You can see I'm using a roller. When I glue something onto the canvas, then I roll it with the small relief printing roller. All right, we're coming to the end here. I'm quite pleased about how this turned out. So now I'm outlining the cat, make the cat stand out a little bit more. So it takes a steady hand when you start painting all of those outlines, around the figure and around dominant shapes that are in the painting. You have to have a really steady hand.